Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Sunday night on the X-Pound, and what the hell? We don't have Richter Hammer here. What's going on? Well, I'm here to tell you. I'm Marcus Shadow, and this is a new show on the X-Pound called Franchised. And I am the host. It is my show. And it is a show where we will take a franchise. In this case, for this episode, the franchise is going to be Power Rangers. Currently, Saban's Power Rangers. And we talk about one thing we find positive, one thing we like about the franchise, an aspect, or, you know, if the franchise is a TV franchise, an episode, or in the case of Power Rangers, a season, because each season is a different team. And we talk about one thing we don't like. And it's just an open, free-flow discussion about the franchise as a whole. Joining me today, and probably will be the regular cast here of the show, we have from TV Land, Mr. James Phoenix.
It's more time.
And we have from Video Game and Comic Land, Chriz the Mole.
Ectophase activate?
Okay.
That would count, wouldn't it?
It would.
All right,
Okay.
so I will kick things off.
Massive
And
rider, Jim.
Oh.
what do you boys think? Should we go
Either-
positives first or negatives first?
I can go either way.
All right, let's go with positives first. I'll kick it off. This one isn't necessarily one of the strongest aspects of Power Rangers, but it's one of the things I like because of personal reasons, and that is the martial arts, because it's what got me into Power Rangers in the first place. Okay, it's guys in colored costumes, spandex, which I was huge into superhero. I was a teen. It's like, okay, so they're basically superheroes, and they do martial arts and wield like martial artsy weapons like swords and staves and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, sold. I'm going to watch this. And I think it helped to a degree, at least from the action standpoint of the fact that they got actual martial artists to, you know, do the fighting. And then they also had the really good Japanese stunt team to do a lot of the in-suit fighting. And then, of course, what I didn't know at the time of they took most of the suit fighting stuff, you know, what they could anyway, from the original Sentai and used that. So most of it was actually, you know, Japanese martial artists in suits doing the fights, and that lent a lot of credibility to the fight scenes. So, yeah, I've always liked the fighting in Power Rangers. Of course, it's been spotty at best over the years. As Power Rangers has started to move kind of away from the more action-oriented, more, you know, away from people need to know how to fight to let's get people who can actually act. But they've also been kind of fortunate of getting people that can kind of do both. And they try to get, you know, lesser-known actors to get their names out there, so not a lot of them are going to be the best actors either. But, yeah, the action's always been one thing to me that, you know, good or bad, cheesy or legit, it's always been fun, and it's always been interesting to just watch the fight and see, you know, how the fights go.
And cool.
Nice.
Yeah, the fighting's always been somewhat cool on Power Rangers. I say somewhat because hip-hop shit, though.
Yeah, that's true. But at
let's
least Walter Jones was an actual martial artist, so at least, aside from the dancing part, at least the fighting part of it was kind of legit because he was doing, you know, his actual moves and stuff. If you remove the hip-hop part of it.
Yeah, but being an actual martial artist, no offense, means fuck all.
Fair enough.
Because I'll put you one of the best martial arts films going, in recent years at least, of House of Flying Daggers, used actors and trained them in martial arts, and so did Matrix and stuff like that, which means you get the acting and you just teach them the moves they need to learn for that particular, just for that scene they're doing, and you always get a better result.
Not always, but often. But fair enough. But yeah, but it's always been hit and miss. I mean, you know, Power Rangers has been somewhat fortunate over the years to get some good combinations of both. Like Daniel Southworth, I mean, you know, he started as a stuntman on Power Rangers. You know, he's an actual martial artist, but who knew he could actually act too? I've seen him do a couple of different things, and he's a pretty prolific voice actor. It's like, okay, guy's got talent. They got lucky with him, and they've gotten lucky with some with people over the years with hidden talents like that or hidden combinations of talents that they didn't know at the time. What does Jim think?
I agree. The martial arts has always been a fun aspect of it because that's one of the things that made Power Rangers is that at the time that the show came out, there wasn't really a live action kids show that was doing that sort of thing, and so it made it unique. And that's one thing that really made the franchise what it is today was that unique martial arts style. And I like the fact they change it up each season, and that I do like it when they get people who actually know how to do some of those moves and whatnot. When they do get to do some unmorphed fights, they don't do the unmorphed fights as much as they used to, which is kind of a shame. But it is cool when they do go out and do some of those martial arts moves like that, and having acting talent is just an added bonus.
Mm-hmm. Although I will say, now having gone back to look at both Rangers and Sentai after the fact, it's a little disappointing, and I understand why, because it was early in Power Rangers, and they probably didn't have the budget nor really the know-how to do this. It's kind of disappointed they didn't use Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger, because that was the one season that was heavily focused on martial arts, specifically various forms of Chinese Kung Fu, and it's like, so you're doing a martial arts show for kids, and you elect not to use the one season that's heavily focused on martial arts?
They used it. They just only used the White Ranger.
Yeah, the one Ranger of that entire season that had nothing to do with martial arts because he wields a goddamn sword.
Yes, but he was also the only one that one who you kept shooting about being a martial artist who could actually do the unmorphed fights and was constantly doing martial arts.
Yes, I was talking more about like the in-suit stuff because it, like I said, it was all different forms of martial arts. It's like, that would have been kind of cool to see.
Probably.
I mean, you had like a drunken master. You had one who used like the dragon stance, and I think one that used like the mantis stance and stuff like that. It's like, that would have been awesome. But again, it was early on. That would have been what, like season 2, I believe, of Power Rangers. So yeah. It would have made no sense to just do that.
It wouldn't. Yeah, you got that part, but I'll admit I preferred what we had.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I've gone back and I've watched that, and I was like, oh god, no! Thank fuck they did what they did with Power Rangers. Because otherwise, it would have been years earlier where we got, woohoo, I'm the new White Ranger, guys.
Maybe. Or they would have just done what they did and maybe kept, because of all the Rangers, the white one is the one that doesn't do a lot of the martial arts. Like, he uses the sword more than the hand-to-hand. They could have gotten away with what they actually did and just kept Tommy on board as the White Ranger. Like, he could have been the one Ranger that comes back and stuff. Now, they wouldn't have been able to use him as, like, the leader, obviously, if they'd have gone strictly with Dai Ranger, just because, their footage with the White Ranger doesn't come until later. But they still could have brought him back, and it still would have worked, I think. They wouldn't have had to do the, woohoo, I'm the new White Ranger. Now, knowing Saban as I do now, they might have been tempted to do that had they used Dai Ranger, and that would have been bad.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you're going to say use the season, you have to use all aspects, and that season was one that had a little stupid kid becoming a Power Ranger.
Well, I didn't mean use all aspects. I just meant like the suits and therefore the fighting styles associated with the suits, just because you really can't change the fight footage that exists, if that makes sense. You can add to it, but if you're going to use the fight footage that exists, then the characters inside the suits are going to have to fight like that, or it's going to look really awkward.
Yeah.
That's all I meant, just saying, because it is a martial arts, like I said, Kung Fu based season, and they were going for martial arts superhero kids show, it always disappointed me and struck me as a little bit odd, as that's the one season you opted not to do. Really? Well, aside that and the ninjas, but they did kind of actually use them, so they don't count because Alien Rangers, so they did technically use them.
Plus they also did the whole
Yeah.
thing where they get ninja costumes themselves and do the martial arts.
Yeah, which works. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, that just, I don't know, it was just kind of funny to me. It's like, really? But then, like I said, it was early on, and it probably wouldn't have worked, not with how they were doing things, how inexperienced they were at that point. It wouldn't have worked. they could probably do it now and get away with it and do it pretty well with the experience they have if they actually try. But yeah. So let's kick over to Jim for his positive.
All right. Well, one thing I've always felt positive about Power Rangers is I've always liked the positive the messages that Power Rangers sends to kids, whether it be teamwork, friendship, helping your community, whether it's overcoming adversity, doing the right thing, never giving up on your dreams, whatever it might be. Power Rangers always has messages to the kids, and that always spoke to me when I was a kid growing up. Is those messages of the Power Rangers never give up, and they do these good things, and I should do that kind of stuff too, and whatnot. And that's always been, and especially the messages that are recurring through Power Rangers, things like that, particularly that that never give up message, which they drive home not only in their actions of what they do in their normal lives, but in their Ranger lives too. It's always great to see that the Rangers are beaten down, forcibly demorphed. They got that weird black stuff that always ends up all over the Power Rangers when they demorph for some reason, all over their clothes, and
or in the event of the new season of Dino Charge, the important message of you don't need qualifications or an education or to even try and get an education to get a job. It's really okay. Because you can even be like a caveman and work at a burger place as long as you can punch stuff in the face, kids. Remember that. That's an important message.
But just like the moments like the end of the Power Rangers at the end of Wild Force Countdown to Destruction. Moments where they were beat down to nothing and still stood up and said, "No, we're not going to give up. As long as we're together, we're gonna we can do this." And they have that triumphant moment where they come back and win. Setting up that don't give up, you can overcome things, and all the other messages the Power Rangers always put out. I don't mean in those PSAs they like to used to put on Fox Kids either, but
yeah. What you're saying is you enjoy stuff with bright colours with some sort of message of never give up. I look forward to addressing this in our next video.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I'm not gonna make those words. I was gonna say I believe WWE does it better. But no, you're talking about
I know it's different.
Stuff,
It does accept that the characters in this show have the capacity to lose.
Kevin Owens says hi.
And the people that the Rangers are fighting for aren't constantly half booing them.
Yeah. Former U.S. champion John Cena says hi.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So it's there always great messages. And there's always that something encouraging to see in this show, and that's that's always a kind of thing you don't see in a lot of shows these days. And I think that's always been a positive thing that they've done throughout the 20 years, and still doing some of that today.
Nice.
I will say that is one thing I do miss from kids shows, and I don't watch a lot of kids shows these days. But some of the more modern stuff that I've seen, probably dating back to the late '90s. And up until now, one thing I miss from the older stuff from like the early 90s to 80s and the 70s is that message, The kid shows having an inherent message within it and making it palatable for children and for like mid-age kids, like preteens and teens. And you don't get that a lot anymore. And part of it is because, you're seeing that shift, especially in the animated sector. You're seeing that shift from classic Western animation style and formulae to an Eastern style of animation and formulae. Because with the rise of anime in the U.S. and stuff, they're going more toward that, and you lose a lot of the wholesome message stuff. Now, I know a lot of the older cartoons and stuff because of that stuff, because what they tried to do, a lot of it is kind of cheesy, but that's half of what made them as good as they were. And it's refreshing to see something like, say, Avatar: The Last Airbender that can marry both of those, and you don't see a lot of that. And Power Rangers did that for the 90s. So because obviously, Power Rangers, Sentai Japanese original, and so obviously the sensibility of the show, the look of like the suits and stuff, obviously it's all Japanese sensibility because they're the ones that created the suits, the monsters and stuff. But they were able to take the look because they knew maybe inherently, not necessarily, oh, we know this is going to do this. No, maybe inherently they knew, hey, kids, especially boys, will buy into this, and they'll love this stuff, all we have to do is tweak it for an American audience. And they did that, and then they added that message, as cheesy as it was. Again, it was the 90s, so, that's kind of what you expect from kid shows of then. And it worked. And you just don't see a lot of that these days, so yes,
Yeah.
that is definitely a big positive, Jim.
Yeah, I do like the messages in Power Rangers. I will say I like some of the ones like Jim mentioned, like the teaching them not to give up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those ones are cool. However, I will also say on the flip side, even as a kid, Power Rangers was really heavy-handed with some. As a kid, I cringed whenever they would talk about let's clean up the park and started to pick up litter. I'm like, really? And like, yeah, everyone should do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do this. That's why I like the messages like Jim said, like never give up. And I like you mentioned, like cartoons today. I love the ones that do the messages right, like Ninja Turtles on Nickelodeon.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yeah. No, I'm not saying there aren't any that do it. I mean, obviously, I mentioned Airbender.
No, I used that as an
Turtles,
example. I used that as an example because that does it, where it's like the Power Ranger style messages, but it's subtler than MMPR's pick up litter with a stick.
Yeah, and that's another great one of marrying, varying cultures and cultural sensibilities. Because if you look at the TMNT of today, it's obvious the animation style is more of an Eastern animation style, like an anime style, which is awesome. But they've tweaked it for the American audience, so it doesn't feel like you know what I mean. It marries what's popular with what should be on TV for kids, and it's made for a great show.
Actually, it's more of a Western animation.
Really, it looks like it has a heavy anime influence to me.
The models are designed to, and most of the characters and stuff are designed to be 3D incarnations of like the 80s style cartoons, like the original Turtles. They've added just tiny little bits of anime elements here or there, just with what kids are used to, but most of it is based heavily in Western animation, which is on the rise now because Eastern style, when everyone was trying to make it look like an anime, has started to die out now because the biggest cartoons now, like Ninja Turtles, Star Wars Rebels, Gravity Falls, and stuff like that, it's like a resurgence of Western animation right now.
Which is fair enough. When I viewed Turtles, I always viewed it more as like they're taking like a lot of the 80s characters and stuff, and a lot of the older characters, and modernizing it, and by modernizing it, making it more streamlined, making it more anime-ish in my opinion. Like, and I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. It's more, like I said, what's more popular with the kids these days, and what they will do, but not going full bore anime. That's why I said tweaking it for the American audience kind of thing.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about just tiny bits, because I know with kids today, most of the most popular stuff, like I gave examples like Star Wars Rebels and stuff, there's a bigger resurgence of Western animation now, like heavily. There's big elements thanks to stuff, companies like Disney XD and stuff like that, to the point where a load of cartoons now like go using like CGI animation, which is more of a Western thing, or they're using more Western staples for cartoons. Western animation has actually come on the rise now, which is a really great thing, because when they were trying to do all the Eastern style animation, while Avatar, for everyone that worked, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, there was a Ben 10, which I just didn't like, and I'm like, no.
Fair enough. I kind of liked Ben 10. I didn't see a lot of it, but what I saw of it, I was like, oh, that's kind of unique and it's kind of cool.
I like Ben 10.
Yeah, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well, that's absolutely correct. We could do like a whole show on animation. Maybe we should. Future show, animation. Put that in the back of my mind.
Animation's not a franchise.
No, for a different show, an X-Pound show, one of our shows, we can do a discussion on anime.
I will make the comment of, let me see, you, one of the people who was complaining we were doing too many shows, wants to do another.
No, I mean we can use the discussion of animation on one of our other shows as a topic. Like, I don't know, maybe we could do it as like a Lair of the Phoenix or something, I don't know. But yeah, Silver Tumulver is positive.
My positive is it one of its incarnations, and that was Dino Thunder.
It was a good incarnation.
That was very good incarnation.
This one did everything right, almost. The one negative I have about the series is the CGI Zords. CGI Zords. However, the characters, which goes into ironically what I was talking about with Marcus's, they didn't use martial arts. They used like I don't know what you call it, genetic powers, or whatever people would call it.
Mm-hmm.
But they used powers to get around it, and as a result, every one of those characters way more better than the original teams, or any of the teams that came before it. Every single one of those characters was likable. Ethan was a nerd. Yes, but he wasn't just doing techno babble because he didn't know what to do like they did with Billy. No, he was actually a well-rounded character that had his own desires, his own lusts, like he wanted a girlfriend and stuff, so he was all really three-dimensional. You had Kira, who was like sort of like a rebel, but then was slightly coming towards joining the group, and she had her own dreams or aspirations. She had someone else that she dated who turns out to be the White Ranger, whose father turns out to be the villain. It's a really complex, or for Power Rangers at least, level of show of how intertwined everything is and how well these characters are done. Every one of them is fleshed out. Everyone has a message. They bring back Tommy, which is great for the older fans, and then you got like the nostalgic episode, just looking at the whole of the franchise for an episode, which is fucking awesome. The music's great. The logo's the best one with the fucking dinosaur with its tail making the lightning bolt, which I was like, oh my god, that's fucking awesome. And yeah, just every single part of this works. They even make jokes that reference all the tropes in Power Rangers. Like when they first get their bikes and Connor's like, which one's mine? Despite the fact they're color coordinated for your convenience. He still asks which one's mine. Or when like Ethan's like, you're not gonna believe what happened. Tom's like, let me guess, did he just grow? And he's like, yeah, you've done this before, haven't you? And he's like, yep, once or twice, and sends the Zord. So when Tommy gets his powers, he's like, I've got to go shopping. There's a shortage of black. They even do an episode taking the piss out of Sentai. And it's like, that's just funny as hell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, like I said, that actually did Power Rangers well. It's like, it's the best series we've ever had of Power Rangers. Which, sadly, nothing's been as good since, and nothing ever probably will be, but still, Dino Thunder.
Nice.
You're not going to hear me say this often, so enjoy it now. Thank you, Disney. I say thank you, Disney, and Saban, because your dinosaur ones aren't as good, but yay, Disney. They got it right.
Indeed. All right. So now we're going to talk about some of the negatives here. And again, I will kick it off. Well, some more negatives. My one dislike.
I said, really? No, yeah. Really? We do yours, and then it's like what you guys think. So when we discuss it, we do Jim's, we discuss it. We do mine. You go, okay, now let's just move on.
Well, we talked about it. I agreed. I mean, what is there to discuss about Dino Thunder? We all agree it was one of the best seasons. You think it's the best?
Yeah, but I thought you guys would have mentioned what you enjoyed about it, like we mentioned with the other stuff.
I liked all the, like you said, the throwbacks and stuff. I mentioned while you were saying it, that there's a serious lack of black in my closet. That's a great line. It's probably like the best line of the entire series. When he said that, I had to crack up. I could not stop laughing. I was like, that's awesome.
That is a great line. I still prefer the other one.
What's that?
The which one's mine. Just because I love it. He says, which one's mine? I love the look on Ethan's face when he just turns to him. And again, acting, because he can do it. When he's looking, he's like, and he looks at him like, the fuck did you just say?
Nah.
And then I basically kind of like, I'm kidding. He's like, you weren't kidding. And I'm just like, that's awesome. Like, that team also did banter between each other, which is also great.
I also love when Tommy got his powers, because he shows up and he's holding the crystal and he decloaks. And Elsa's like, "Aren't you getting a little old for this, Tommy?" And Tommy's all like, "Hey, I may be old, but I can still do it.
Yep.
I can still pull it off." Boom! And you're just like, "Oh, you pissed off a legend. You're done, lady."
Yeah. It also has the awesomeness of the best team-up episode we've ever had.
The Ninja Storm one?
Yep. The Ninja Storm team-up, where I was like, that's really well done, because Ninja Storm, again, was a great season.
Mhm.
Those 2 seasons, Disney was on fire. But basically, with those 2 with the crossover and how they interplayed and how they did a load of original stuff with just those unmorphed fights and stuff, it's like, that was really cool crossover. That seemed really great. It's not like, I don't know, hypothetically speaking, like bringing back the previous villain of the series who happened to be hot in the other one. Let's just shove a mask on her, and then, who cares? Lightspeed Rescue. I liked Lightspeed Rescue, but I hated that Lost Galaxy team-up episode.
I didn't like that they made that Trakina, especially, and I know you're going to be for saying this, especially after seeing the Sentai version of it. It's like, because I was always curious, what was it meant to be? Was it supposed to be like the villain of a fucking Ginga Man or whatever? And it's not. It's supposed to be a completely new villain, and they just completely made it a Trakina, and then it's like, and it doesn't matter that it's Trakina because it turns into something that's completely not Trakina, and it's like, oh, no wonder why that team up kind of sucked. I never liked that team up either, to be honest.
I liked the idea behind it, but yeah, if they'd had the original actress back, that would have been perfect. But unfortunately, they didn't get her back because I understand what they went for, because it kind of should have been Trakina. That's always cool with the idea. Like, for example, I don't know, let's say Dragon Ball Z was crossing over with Power Rangers. I'd want it to be Frieza. Or, depending on which way they went, Lord Zed, if it was the Rangers going into the other one. Not saying they would ever team up. They definitely don't belong together. But, you know what I mean? I kind of want that. Like, if Batman teams with Superman, would depend on whose comic they're in.
Mm-hmm.
It means, basically, I want to see one of the other people's villains show up.
True, but didn't the Lost Galaxy Rangers, like, kill Trakina at the end?
Yeah, they had to bring her back through means, but still.
Yeah, but that would lead to my point of, I'd love to see a villain from the previous season come back, but don't make it one that you've killed off. Make it one that survives, because there's always at least 1 or 2 villains that actually survive from any given season.
I agree, but it's also a matter of, depending on who the villain is, availability of actors and actresses.
Yeah,
that is true too.
But yeah.
But then again, if it's a quality actor or actress, they'll make the time for it because it's worth it. That's why, in my personal opinion, to date the best team I've ever had is Reinforcements in the Future, because they got Vernon Wells to come back as Rancic.
That was a great team up. I loved that team up. I do have to say my favorite team up though still has to be Forever Red.
Forever Red was good.
I love Forever Red. But yeah, the Time Force team up. The Time Force team up I felt that was actually better than the Dino Thunder one, because I felt that hit on all cylinders, and it wrapped up a loose end from Time Force, which I'm like, that's kind of awesome. And they tied a villain's backstory that was never really established from Time Force. The main villain, in fact, part of him that was never really established. It was just, okay, he's a mutant and he can do this. It was never established if there was a reason why he could or anything. And they decided, you know what? We're going to expand it and we're going to make up a reason why he can do all this stuff. And it's like, and he's not really a mutant. He was turned into a mutant. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And they tied it in to Wild Force. And I'm like, that's awesome.
No, he legitimately was a mutant.
Yeah, I liked those. I liked that team up of Time Force and Wild Force, except for the Mute Orgs. That ruined the whole thing for me, because they're as bad as Thrax.
Fair enough.
I hated those Mute Orgs. I was like, they shouldn't be a thing. But
I half agree with you. Yeah, they shouldn't have been a thing, but at the same time, I don't think they were as bad as Thrax. Number one, they didn't look like ass like Thrax. They didn't look that good compared to other villains, but I didn't think they looked like
I
Thrax.
thought they looked like ass.
And number two, for what they were going for and to tie everything in, I felt it worked. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to tie Rancic's backstory into what Wild Force is doing, it kind of has to be some sort of org. And I was like, okay, they combine mutants and org. Okay, that I can buy that. It's Power Rangers. I can buy that, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. It kind of makes sense. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's also like with Thrax, if they wanted to bring back someone from MMPR, they need it to be a villain tied to that era. And it said Zordon Z-Wave was meant to have purified every single one of them. So they had to make up a new one for there. Thrax, as much as I don't like him, I understand what they were going for. It made sense for the episode, but I still don't like Thrax.
Yeah, no, they could have written around that, though, because on screen we never saw Goldar or Scorpina die. Regardless of what was said, we never saw them die and turn to dust. They could have written that in.
Or they could have brought back Master Vile.
That also would have worked.
Because they could have said that Master Vile was somewhere else at the time that the wave couldn't hit, and then he comes back, finds out, all of a sudden he finds out, what? My daughter's a goody two-shoes, pure good energy witch? No, fuck that crap.
Yeah, but they could have brought back Master Vile, but I will put it to you. If you say to any fan, who are the main villains of MMPR?
True.
No one ever mentions him. Everyone goes Rita and Zed. Which means he made the most sense from that. It's sort of, you know what I mean? It just makes sense, but I didn't like him, but I liked with the Ninja Storm one. I liked it because it's one of the few times, or one of the first times. I don't think we've seen it since, but I just like the idea that the previous team turns evil, so you have that comic book aspect that they fight first, and then we have to purify them and turn them back to being good type stuff. I'm like, that's really cool. And obviously, like I said, I thought the actors in Dino Thunder and Ninja Storm as a whole were better than the ones in Wild Force and Time Force. Well, Time Force did have a couple of good actors, and Wild Force had one. It was, overall as a whole, they were more cohesive, or not cohesive, they were more palatable.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that was, to be honest, even the Wild Force cast themselves have said that they didn't particularly enjoy working together. They didn't really form a cohesive unit like a lot of seasons did. But that's why a lot of them enjoyed that team up I mentioned earlier, because the Time Force Rangers, they all became immediate best friends. The point that they, at least three of them, Font, Cahill, and Southworth, still hang out on the regular, and they all still talk to each other. They're all still good friends to this day. And when they came to team up with the Wild Force Rangers got to feel some of that sense of the sense of friendship, and just that awesome sense of they're all friends thing that they didn't really get experience among their own team because there was some disagreements and some infighting among their own team. And that's what that was one thing that made that cool also.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would have made it cooler if the lesson had actually stuck and the Wild Force Rangers had then become good after that episode. But, yeah.
Yeah, and another thing that's a little disappointed me with that was, and this is another after the fact thing because I didn't watch a lot of Sentai until way after I watched all the Power Ranger stuff. They should have. I was always a little disappointed they didn't have a Ninja Storm Wild Force crossover. I never knew why, and to this day I don't know why, because they basically took sort of the idea of the Hurricaneger Gal Ranger crossover, and they applied that to Dino Thunder and Ninja Storm to make a new crossover, which again worked. It was a great crossover. But it's like, you had one tailor-made for that. Why didn't you just use that? Because you have already footage done of the two teams fighting each other.
It's because they were filmed in a new location, and Ninja Storm was designed as a result to originally be a reboot. It was only Dino Thunder where they retconned it to being part of the continuity. Hence, Dustin mentions Power Rangers were just comic characters. And, yeah, like I said, filmed in different locations. It would have cost them a load of money to ship the other ones out there.
Fair enough. That always disappointed me.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, I really did like that Dino Thunder one. It was just cool seeing them interact
That was pretty cool.
with the Ninja Storm Rangers.
It was.
Even Hunter wasn't a dick in that one.
Nope. Well, let's be honest. Hunter was never a dick. Hunter was just a tool.
Okay, yeah, he always seemed like a dick or a douche, whatever you want to say. But yeah, I didn't hate him, and I liked him.
Yeah, he was tolerable.
I didn't like Hunter. I liked Blake.
Oh,
We didn't say we liked Hunter. We said he was tolerable in that team up.
Yeah, I said in that episode he was good.
Yeah, it was okay. I don't know. No offense to Adam Tolminen, but I never really liked that character.
Yeah, that's fine.
Which is fair.
But yes, negatives.
Yeah, so that was, yeah.
Yeah, Dino Thunder was good. I like Dino Thunder.
Yeah, I agree. Down of Thunder was pretty awesome.
So yeah, my dislike, and it ranges across the board, entirety of Power Rangers. Lack of actual video games. What the fuck, Saban? Really?
It shouldn't resonate throughout the whole of the series. We've had video games for years. They just stopped after Ninja Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the
Well,
video games
Dino
kind of
Thunder,
sucked. There's only been a handful of decent ones, and that was only in like the MMPR days.
Yeah, MMPR, the movie on SNES and Mega Drive. Say what?
Yeah, and then after that, it went downhill from there. There was nothing ever really good. Like, okay, we just talked about Dino Thunder, but that video game, what the fuck?
Yeah, I said the ones on PS1 were pretty good, like Time Force and stuff like that.
And the Lightspeed, I heard the Lightspeed Rescue game was pretty good too.
Yeah, and it was like
I never even knew those existed because they never like promoted them or anything.
So yeah, I knew they existed. I went and bought them, but yeah, they were pretty good.
See, I'd like to try them. I never knew any of those existed, but it's like, but now, what the hell? I mean, what does Saban have to show for, or more recent Power Rangers have to show for video games? A shitty samurai game on the Kinect, really?
Or a apparently passable game or good game to a certain degree on DS.
That too.
They have a game on DS.
There's a Mega Force game on DS.
And a Super Mega Force game on DS.
But they need to have a full blown console game, and like especially for
Super Legends is what?
That's an older game. But anyway, with Super Mega Force, there was no excuse. They should have made. They had one basically made for them that they could have used, especially since they decided to use some of the Sentai suits. It's like, come on, you literally had to do nothing except translate the words, and then just repackage it, slap Power Rangers on it, and sell it. That's literally all. What do you mean? I believe all of, well, at least I know Aeon and I have been saying the whole time that's what they should have done. They had a ready-made game for it. I can't speak for any other Sentai Ranger fans because we don't know a lot of the other ones except Kage, but I haven't really talked to him. But I know for a fact Aeon and I both strongly believe, yeah, there's a Gokaiger game. Fucking rename that. Do some translations and reword some stuff to make it seem, Super Mega Force, and just because it's basic. Because the what I'm thinking of is basically like Dynasty Warrior style kind of thing, where you shift between the Rangers, and it's like, okay, you don't need to have much of a story there. You just go in, play as different Rangers, and beat the crap out of people. That would sell Mega, but no, they never did that.
Yeah, you're assuming that one, Toei would allow it. Two, that whoever the actual game developer was would allow it.
They would because it's made by Bandai Namco, who also published the Power Ranger games.
Yes, I know they do. I didn't know it was made by Bandai. Fair enough.
Yeah, Bandai does all the Sentai and
in that case, I don't know, but Bandai does the same thing with the toys. They release one line of toys in Japan and another line of toys in America.
That's because Power Rangers tells them to redesign the toys for Power Rangers, because if you haven't noticed, they usually modify the toys. Like a lot of them, they shrink them, or obviously the parts have been slightly changed or something.
Yeah, they might have the allergies of stickers to put English words on them, but all they do with the toys is they shrink them and make them shittier.
as per the American design.
It's the same
I
goddamn thing in the both shows. They don't need an American design. Unless you're doing flip head figures, you really don't need that shit.
I would make the case they're not all smaller and shittier, because I've held some of the Japanese ones in my hand, and I've got some of the Power Ranger ones. I kind of like the Power Ranger ones. Like, I've held the whatever the fuck it's called, and I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna call it Shitty Sentai Megaforce Morpher, and I've got the actual Megaforce one in my hand, and I prefer the Megaforce one. It fits my hand more comfortably. It feels better and not oversized piece of junk.
Fair enough.
think that's a great segue into Mole's negative.
No, Jim can go first.
You can go ahead, Mole.
No, I was letting you go first because that way we keep the order.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter.
But yeah, that's my negative. I think they need more video games. They need, actual like current gen console games and stuff like that, because I think that would go a long way toward promoting the franchise. And I feel that's one market that they've never really captured, I guess, because they've been spotty at best with their releases for that, and even what they have released hasn't necessarily been the greatest stuff. And as we just pointed out, the people who own your rights are Bandai Namco. There is no fucking excuse here.
Well, actually, there is a major excuse.
What's that?
As me and Richter and Pew have discussed on XER multiple times, not shocked you guys haven't heard it, but basically, right now, with video games, you either get massive AA budget release titles or shitty indie titles. The TV or movie tie-in market has pretty much died. Because let's say a Power Ranger game came out, it's not going to be as good a quality when it comes out as, like, say, the Lego game that's come out that month, or the Disney Infinity, or Skylanders, and stuff like that. And therefore, which one's going to sell? And it costs money to develop these games, and especially with today's gaming market, with how it's declined and stuff, if their game doesn't sell, it runs the risk of putting people out of jobs.
True. Oh, there you go. Make a Lego Power Rangers game. That'd be awesome.
Nope, because thanks to the, as you like to keep bringing up, so I'm going to bring it up, the shitty Sentai, being owned in Japan, Power Rangers is done by Mega Bloks because they don't like Lego.
Really?
Really? I even own MMPR Mega Bloks where they had all 6 Rangers in their little figure, in their little box.
Yeah, they do a Mega Bloks for pretty much every season. It's been that way pretty much since Sabat took back over, give or take.
I know that. I didn't know they didn't like Lego. It's like, really?
Yeah, in Japan, most of their stuff is Mega Bloks compared to our Western Lego. So therefore, when the companies go to, like with Power Rangers, when they go to give the license to someone, they go with Mega Bloks, not Lego.
Well, that sucks.
Indeed, but that is how it is.
But I believe it's Jim's.
Yeah, it's over to Jim.
Okay. So, my negative is basically a season, and it's basically Operation Overdrive. Now, that's not to say that there aren't good touches here and there in this season. Spencer is a great character. It's highly entertaining. David Weatherly did a great job.
Best character on the show. Best actor on the show.
Indeed. I give credit to the attempt to try to, given that, it's particularly hard, but Bokenger is one of the most popular Sentai seasons, and it's a little hard to live up to, so I can understand when the Japanese gave them to it, they probably put a lot of pressure on them saying, make this good, and that probably didn't help them at all. But the fact of the matter is, there was a combination of problems with this season. I think problem number one, they did not get good actors for this season at all. That was the biggest problem. Except for maybe Rhoda Montemayor as the Pink Ranger, I give her credit because I think she did a good job. But being the brainy one. But other than that, these characters could not act and generally were not in any way likable.
Some of them were.
I didn't. Well, like I said, difference of opinion. I particularly, except for maybe, except for the Pink Ranger, whom I kind of like because she's like, oh, she's kind of the smart one. She seemed kind of funny. I didn't really like the rest of these characters. Dax was annoying. Will was a dick. Um, and I mean, he seemed kind of like a jerk even before we knew what a dick he was at Power Morphicon. Um, the Yellow Ranger just kind of, she's there, and the Red Ranger was like, okay, you're Mac, you're the Red Ranger, but
He was bland.
he was bland. Yeah, exactly.
Like most Red Rangers, but yeah.
Pretty much, but
yeah, Mac was not good. However,
but he was worse because he's an android, so they had an excuse for why he was bland as opposed to the other people. It's like, why are you bland? You're human. It's like, well, this guy's not supposed to be human. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they put in hey, it's an android twist, and it's like, really, he's an android, really? You're gonna rip that off? Fine.
Yeah, they did the android things where he could do the Sentinel Knight stuff that he did, which was that was an interesting-ish story to a certain point.
I give him credit for being a unique story and get out of the box for Power Rangers, but at the same time, it didn't work.
And I was saying the Red Ranger Mac, but I can't remember which color they went with this season, either green or black. He was awesome.
The black guy?
Yeah, well.
Will?
Yeah, like I said, the green or the black ranger. We didn't have to give him a race. I'm not racist, but more on that later. But yeah, when it comes to that in general, with that, I liked his character. He was fun.
I'll admit Will did some cool things. Oh, look, I'm going to running my morpher up your sword and do some cool, do it while doing a flip. That was badass. I give him credit on that. But it just seemed like, I don't know. It just seemed like his character was, I don't know. I understand it's because they wrote his character to be kind of I can do this on my own, I don't need you, jerk. But the problem is I think they drove it home too much, or he just played it too well. Because, as we've seen, he actually is a jerk. And I think it made the character unlikable, in my opinion.
It was more of what you mentioned with the marching orders they got from Toei, because the Black Ranger in Bokenger was very much the kind of like, I guess, the thief of the group. He was, because they're all like treasure hunters and stuff, but he was always more of the more disreputable one, and he was kind of the loner and kind of the, I don't really care about you guys. I'm only here. Well, he was only really there because of the Yellow Ranger. Because like aside from that, he's like, screw you guys. I don't really care about being a Bokenger or whatever. And then he grows into the role. And that's probably what they were trying to go for with Will, but like you said, they probably went too far. I haven't seen the whole season, but based on what you're saying, it sounds like maybe they went a little too far with the whole loner thing. But like all that stuff that he does, like the flips, the running the morpher up the side of the blade and stuff, that's the whole reason I love the Black Ranger and Bokenger. Why he's like, to this day, probably my favorite Sentai Ranger. He's awesome. Which is such a great character, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, which is fair enough. And like I said, I don't know if I thought the character was unlikable because of the personality they gave him and the way that he played it. But it just rubbed me the wrong way. Like, okay, I get it. He's supposed to be kind of cool, but reputable. But it just seemed like he was, like he was too much of a jerk for the sake of being a jerk, and he never really came around to the whole teamwork thing, even though they never saw where he supposedly did that.
Yes. Yeah. See, I like that because in a lot of shows it's great to have that. Sometimes the jerk characters can actually be sometimes the best. Example, when we did our list, like for example, Spike in Buffy, or Damon in the Vampire Diaries, or Rumpelstiltskin in Once Upon a Time and stuff. Although arguably he had more of a nice period, but whenever we allowed, sometimes it's just good to have that jerk character. Like, there's a reason most people, or a lot of people, like Raphael as their favorite Ninja Turtle.
Would it be wrong for me to say my original reason for liking Raphael, and it's kind of to this day, is because he had the most unique weapon? Because I'm like, okay, everyone's seen swords, everyone's seen staves, nunchucks, while not really entirely common, are still, everyone knows what a nunchuck is, especially with Bruce Lee and stuff. And then Raphael pops out with scythes. It's like, the hell are those? That's kind of awesome.
They're the things Elektra used.
Yeah, well, that was before I had heard about Elektra and got into like Daredevil and stuff. That was also when I was a really young kid before I really even got into comics. But yeah, I was like, that's awesome. They're short range, and then that's the other thing that I really liked about Raph too is because of the four turtles. He's the close range fighter. I always loved the close range fighter. I'm like, that's awesome. He's the brawler of the group. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I always liked Raphael the most. More so in all the incarnations that aren't the 80s cartoon. Just because he's just the badass Wolverine type character. And that's always fun. The jerk's always fun. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the nice guy's not fun. I mean, for example, as much as people don't like the show, let's go with Smallville. I love Tom Welling as Clark Kent. He was a great Clark Kent. The show may not be good, but he was still great in his role. He was really likable, and when the character did those crying faces, you were just like, oh, I want to give you a hug. I liked him, but at the same time, I loved Lex. You know what I mean? Right. I like having that on a team, which I think that may be one of the reasons of him is with Power Rangers, normally they're always just cookie cutter of everyone has to be the nice guy. It's nice to have a jerk on a team once in a while.
True.
Indeed. But overall, like I said, with Order, I just felt like personally, I did not like or connect with most of the characters in Overdrive, and that really hurt the season for me because I think a part of and that's the same can be said about some other seasons too, Samurai being one that comes to mind. But I just found it hard to connect to the characters, and I felt that really hurt the season. Combine that with the fact that it didn't seem like there was a cohesive plan for what the villains were trying to do in any way, because with the footage they were given, number one, they had Florius, whose counterpart really didn't do anything for most of the season, so he just kind of sat there and sent out some minions once in a while. Some foot soldiers. He didn't really send out monsters. Then you had Moltor, who was the more active guy who came out and did stuff, but he was just, he was the closest thing they had to a main villain, even though Florius ended up being the last guy they fought, which was fair enough. But Moltor was like, okay, he's kind of like your Gold or whatever. And then you had the ninja guy in Miratrix, came to our Miratrix, like, okay, what are they doing? And they were at the Fear Cats, and it was the whole villain thing was just a clusterfuck. And that I think that drew away from it too, because you didn't have you could have maybe one villain, or maybe if you had one central set of villains and then Camdor or Miratrix, that would have worked. But having 4 or 5 different villain factions, the way they did it just didn't work. It's here's all these random people that are all fighting each other and it's it's hard to cheer for the Rangers when they're all fighting each other. It's you want to cheer for these guys and that guy. It was confusing as hell, and it didn't help anything.
Oh, I agree. Operation Overdrive was bad.
Yeah, and
I agree with that villain assessment. I've said a lot since Bokenger is one of my favorite Sentai seasons of all time. That with what they did with the villain groups, and from what I've seen of the villain groups in Operation Overdrive, it seemed like they diminished what the threat of having multiple factions was supposed to be and was in Bokenger by all but eliminating one of the villain factions and trying to elevating a pair of villains into their own separate faction that was never meant to be a separate faction. I'm like, really? Now I will say, pardon the pun, I thought Florius was a cool character. I thought they did him well.
Yeah,
the problem was that the character in Bokenger did a lot of stuff. He was awesome. He was, for all intents and purposes, the actual main villain. The problem was he was a dude in a robe, so they couldn't actually use that character. Well, they could have used the character if they wanted to do an American version of him, but because they changed the character completely, Florius was, for all intents and purposes, different to that character, and because of that, a lot of what that character did they couldn't use for Florius because it wouldn't have made sense for Florius to do it, which is why a lot of the times you see Florius doing fuck all, which is kind of disappointing because they made a great villain. I'm like, wow, he looks kind of awesome, and he's got ice powers. How do you not use this? But the biggest disappointment to me, and especially because it's a Disney season, which made me facepalm heavily, is how did you not use the concept of Bokenger? That writes itself because you're fucking Disney. Oh my god.
What was the concept of Bokenger?
it was basically, and I understand that there's a reason why they took out some of the episodes, which makes sense. The concept of Bowcanger is that these guys are treasure hunters. It's basically a group of Indiana Jones. But what they're searching for are magical artifacts that were held by these, shall we say, extra powerful beings, all based on like folk tales and stuff, like Cinderella and whatnot, and they're called preciouses, these items. Like, for instance, and I loved this, what they did with this in Bowcanger. They took Cinderella, they made her the villain of Cinderella, but people didn't know that because in the story, Cinderella is a good person, and they made her precious her glass slipper. That's why in every telling of Cinderella, she has a glass slipper, and what she does is she uses a glass slipper, and Prince Charming, who she's basically captured and made her slave, to basically lure in these young girls who want to be the Princess Cinderella and use their life energy to remain young. I'm like, that's awesome. I love that concept. That's one of the reasons why I love that season, because it's taking all these tales, Western tales, a lot of Eastern tales too, which obviously they wouldn't be able to use that stuff because people over here wouldn't know Japanese folklore. But
Did
they use.
did they use the Monkey King?
I don't think so.
Oh,
That's more mythos as opposed to folktale. But
fair enough.
But yeah, they used all these different things and in kind of clever ways. Like they had like the Pied Piper, and his precious obviously was his flute, and they it was so awesome. And I'm like, come on, you're fucking Disney. Hello, Disney Library, you could use that.
To be fair, there's two major things with what you said.
What's that?
A, kids are watching it. If it's owned by Disney, do they really want kids who not like characters like Cinderella and stuff? Because this isn't when Saban owned it. This is when the female characters were actually, considered equals. It's basically a case of you would then tell your audience not to buy your products. And at the same time, what they were doing with Power Rangers is they were trying, that's why it very rarely said Disney on a lot of the stuff with it. They were trying to make it feel a little separate to Power Rangers to also at the same time get the boys market back to Disney, because at the time it was all like Hannah Montana and That's So Raven and stuff. So as a result, they didn't want it to be associated as Disney, but at the same time being Disney, they're not going to make the kids hate their characters.
Well, no, but at the same time, if they were trying to attract your boys, that's exactly the kind of twisted fairy tale that's going to pull a boy in, as opposed to the actual fairy tale.
Yeah, but like I said, it's not Saban now, Jim. This is Disney. They cared about females. This is when girls could watch the show too.
Well, you could twist it and make it the villains from the Disney things, like I don't know, like Jafar's staff or something. It would have worked.
Which means they're then changing the footage. Which means they have to make all new footage, which they did. So they're just making it feel not like Disney by not doing that stories, and also not risking it alienating the audience from their other products by doing it in a bad way. I can understand why they would do that. I'm not saying what the results would be good, but I'm just saying from a business standpoint, I can understand why they would do it.
Fair enough, except they still made it seem like Disney because they came up with Norg. God damn, was that character annoying. Hated that character.
You're right. The Sentai, take a shot, Jim. The Sentai never uses small or cartoony or annoying characters. So, by the way, tell me again why you wanted the buddy roids.
One, I didn't find them annoying. Number two, I loved the buddy roids. I thought they were awesome. But all I'm saying is they added Norg. It wasn't part of the original Sentai, and that character was a very Disney-type character, as we all saw when they made Frozen. And it's just like, he was unnecessary. And like I said, just in my opinion, a very Disney move. It was a very Disney character.
It was, but I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to say Norg. I'm going to say I tolerate Norg because Kelson Henderson, but that aside, I'm going to say I give props to Norg because Norg is necessary because, think about this. Imagine all the scenes that Norg appears in for most of the series that you've seen, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine if Norg wasn't in those scenes. You know what that would be? That would be a lot of scenes of Florius sitting on his ass monologuing to himself like an idiot. That's what that would be.
Yeah, it's a character
True.
that's needed. Also, I'd make the case you can't say Disney because, as we saw with Frozen, because Disney now is a very different company to Disney with Power Rangers. Hence, Disney was nice enough to give Saban back the rights and stuff because, as one of the guys who is now in charge of Disney said, Saban will do something with the property. We don't need it. We got Marvel. That's cool. Let them have it. Let the fans still have the stuff and all that. And they stopped doing the direct-to-DVD sequels and stuff. So Disney now is actually a very different company to Disney during Power Ranger days.
Yeah, Disney during Power Rangers days didn't ruin franchises they got their hands on.
Cool. So tell us again how we're discussing Operation Overdrive.
Yeah, that was one season, but they also did Ninja Storm, as you pointed out. They did Dino Thunder.
They
They
also
did
did Mystic
RPM.
Force. Yep, good point. That's one for me. They did RPM and they did Mystic Force.
I wouldn't say that was as bad as Overdrive. It wasn't good, but I would not say it ruined it, not like Overdrive did. Overdrive was just, oh my god. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like Mystic Force that much either, but at least the characters are actually good. I like the characters of Mystic Force. And the villains made sense. And it wasn't a clusterfuck. The only thing that was a clusterfuck was the storytelling, but that's another discussion for another show.
Yeah, but overall, like I said, I think there was the combination of all those problems. It made Overdrive was a really lackluster season. It felt particularly bad because it had so much potential too. Because it was an interesting story. Okay, we're going to chase treasure around the world. That's a cool story. We don't normally get to see it because normally Power Rangers are in one city that is the city conveniently always being attacked by the villains. Whereas this was happening all over the world, and it felt like they really didn't take advantage of that. And like I said, there were villain factions. It could have been. It had a lot of potential, and they just didn't take advantage of that as well as it could have. And I just felt like that really, hurt the season overall. And then let's talk about Once a Ranger for just a second here. Of course, the 15th anniversary was this season. And I give them credit for, okay, we're going to bring back four of our recent Rangers because it's our anniversary and because we had their numbers and they're in this country, we can get them easily, so we're going to bring back 4 people. That's fair enough.
And we probably under contract.
Maybe.
And
I don't know about that. And we got one dude who, from the early days, who is popular, who's generally popular with the fans. We're bringing Adam. That's cool. And, they did that. I give them credit for doing all of that, but then they got, if they want to do something like Thrax, I would have accepted that if it wasn't Thrax. Like, if they had actually put some effort into designing his costume, I might have actually taken him somewhat seriously as a threat. But mostly his terrible costume. In fact, they didn't really justify his existence. Like, exactly at what point did Zed and Rita have time to have a baby? And even if they did at some point while they were married, how did he age fast enough to be that age? In the, did he pull an Impus Olympus? An Impus Olympius? What happened here? Yeah. So it's just a matter of, if they just explained a little bit more about his backstory, just even a couple of sentences saying, hey, this is what happened, and if his costume had been a little better designed, I feel like he could have been a genuinely awesome villain. Like, oh my god, Rita Zed had a son. That could have been awesome. And he could have even escaped to come back as a main villain for a later season. And it would have been, or at least a recurring villain for anniversary special or something. It would have been pretty cool. But they blew that entire opportunity, and it just felt like it didn't really work. Well, I give credit that the Rangers interacting with each other during that team up. Having the Anniversary Rangers interact with the Overdrive Rangers, that was pretty cool. I give them credit for that. And that I give for the Overdrive Rangers realizing they needed to be Rangers in that episode. That they did a good job acting that one.
And Tori and Kira, woo!
And Tori and Kira came back, which is great. Yeah, they brought back good actors, good Rangers. It was fun to see. They did, it was a decent arc, but the combination of Thrax and just how it felt like it was thrown together at the last minute, and it showed.
I do agree about. I can't believe I have to say this. I will say it's better than Forever Red.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is, because as a kid growing up watching it, and that's for the older fans anyway, why the fuck are they killing the Beetleborgs? Come on.
Yeah, that was a little bit lazy. But
killing the stupid Beetleborgs. You have Cole's bike destroying Serpent Terror.
Bike.
It's all truncated into like one episode.
Yeah.
I like Forever Red, but as a whole, it's not that good. I mean, you know what I mean? It misses a lot of the beats.
I agree. Forever Red could have been a little bit better, but they ran into the biggest thing that hurt Forever Red was budget. Because that's the reason they truncated it from a 2-parter down to a 1-parter, and that's why the bike happened. Because they ran into money to even finish the 1 episode, and Bandai said, all right, we'll fund the rest of your episode, but you have to heavily advertise something that we're making a new toy out of in the episode, hence bike.
Yeah, that's why I give Operation Overdrive a bit more of a pass than that one is, because from what I remember at least, wasn't Once a Ranger 2 episodes, and therefore it was fleshed out more.
Yes, but I still think Forever Red was better. Number one, I didn't know they were Beetleborgs, so to me, I didn't really care. And it's like, okay, they made them believable as like automatons. So it's like, okay, remnants of the Machine Empire.
Time out, you're not allowed to do that.
What?
Most of your complaints here have been because you then went back and found out information about the Sentai after the fact you'd seen Power Rangers. Therefore, now you've gone back, you've seen they were Beetleborgs, that has to be a complaint.
No, it doesn't. I still don't care.
Weird.
I don't care that they were Beetleborgs. What? You can't make me care that it was Beetleborgs. I've never seen the show. Why would I care? It's like, okay, I agree it was kind of lazy, and after the fact, now that I know they used the Beetleborg costume, okay, that was a little bit lazy. You could have came up with new villains. But I was like, it kind of worked. But, that, and like the bike. The bike was the only really bad issue I took with Forever Red. I was like, okay, no, fuck that bike. However, Once a Ranger, okay, first of all, as Jim pointed out, Thrax never should have existed. In fact, after having finally seen the entirety of Zyuranger, because official release, if they were going to do that, they should have done the Sentai route, in my opinion. If they wanted to use the child, or in this case, the son of Rita and Zed, primarily because of the whole timing issue, the fact that it doesn't make sense that Thrax would be this age. Also, he looks like ass. No, fuck no. Get a better costume. But because in Zyuranger, Bandora actually had a child. And when they brought him into the season, they resurrected. He was dead. That's the whole reason she
Yeah, isn't that why she hibernated and he came back to destroy the world because the dinosaurs killed her son?
Yeah, but when he came back basically at the age he was when he died. So he was a young child. I'm like, you could have taken Thrax and made him like a young teenager or something. That would have worked. But they made him like fucking your age, and I'm like, that doesn't work within the time frame. And the costume looks like ass. No. Number two, I absolutely hated what they did with the morphing grid. It completely destroyed the illusion of the morphing grid from Power Rangers leading up to this point. It's like, nope, it's a physical thing that you can walk into. I'm like, no, it's supposed to be mystical energy. What the fuck? No.
To be fair,
I hated that.
There is a logical explanation for Thrax.
Okay.
Did you not see Countdown to Destruction?
Yes, I did.
They purified all the villains, turning them back to how they should be by making them good again. They all got younger. Like Rita now looked younger, Zed now looked younger, and stuff like that. Therefore, logically speaking, the way evil works with Rita and Zed is it ages them. Because let's not forget, Rita started off as a really old woman.
Until they changed the actresses, and she was visibly younger, but okay.
Yeah, but Zed was also then de-aged into a guy in a sweater when he dances off on the moon, because I don't know, he can breathe in space. And basically, it's a case of, well, from what we've seen with the evilness, when they were purified, they now looked younger and prettier. Logically, it ages you.
Yeah, maybe. Flimsy at best, but okay. I could see where that conclusion would be drawn, I'll grant you that. But yeah, I absolutely hated the morphing grid thing. I'm like, no, it should not be corporeal. I'm like, oh, this is fucking terrible. It looks cool, but oh, this is fucking terrible.
Yeah, I didn't like the idea of going into the morphing grid.
And then the third thing, the thing that just made me say, okay, I liked Once a Ranger, it was cool to see the team up, but no, fuck you, Disney, just fuck you. And that is what they did to Adam Park, or more accurately, what they did to the Mastodon powers. I was like, no, this is completely wrong. The new suit looked cool. I actually like the new suit. I like the new helmet. Wasn't too fussed on the mouth part of it. I thought they raised it a little too high, but it looked fine. I love the morphing sequence. The new morphing sequence looked fucking awesome.
Could have been
Fuck
worse.
him for taking away all of Adam's abilities, or the Mastodon suit's abilities. All he had was the axe. He couldn't change into the cannon like it was supposed to. They showed in half the scenes he has the blade blaster on his hip. Does he ever use it? No. I'm like, you made him fucking useless. That's wonderful.
Yeah, but he was resting his hand on the other one and supporting him and teaching the new generation, which is what Adam was all about. And also, he was also the best fighter on the team.
Which I would have to call bullshit on, and he should not have been the best fighter. Even though he is my favorite Ranger, I have to call bullshit. No.
But I completely agree. You shouldn't screw over like an old original Ranger like from Adam's era. Cool. So tell me again how Rocky was in Forever Red.
To be fair, that was both of their faults because he moved and did not give them his information, so they couldn't get a hold of him.
It doesn't matter. It's still an episode about all the Red Rangers, and it's like no Rocky. It's like, oh. And if we're going by gaps in logic, they all were all morphed, breathing on the moon. Breathing
True.
On the moon.
The Oracle, the Red Alien Ranger, wasn't.
Yeah, true, him.
Although you could say it was the morphing grid protecting them, because since they had the powers connected to them, it was... If you're going to go with the fucking Thrax explanation, I'm going with the morphing grid protected them because they were all connected to the grid.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. The Raiders are protected by the morphing grid, but then how were the Machine Empire's fucking horses breathing on the moon?
Yeah.
That was dumb.
Also, if you're going by that explanation of the morphing grid then protects them and stops them and helps them breathe, how the hell can Tommy ever be choked? Because before now he's had to catch his breath and stuff like that in Dino Thunder, and logically he should still have his powers. Even though they said he didn't, he should still have them because he had them in that episode. And even before that, in Turbo, similar stuff where they had episodes where they couldn't breathe or they had to hold their breath to swim. Clearly the morphing grid doesn't protect them that way.
Keeps them from suffocating in space? I don't know.
So, tacked on to my last point, why is the Machine Empire using fucking horses?
Yes, that was dumb.
Yeah. Why the Machine Empire? Why the Beetleborgs using horses on the moon to fight the Power Rangers?
Hey, let's be accurate. Let's not ban out the originals. Why were the Beetleborgs Metallics using horses to fight the Power Rangers on the moon?
Yeah. And we have to use that name because that is the original name. That's how this has gone so far. So yeah, why were the Beetleborgs on horses on the moon?
It's a good question.
Yeah, the horses were dumb. No, there was no reason for the horses.
And also, why does Tommy have his own Alpha that we never see again?
I don't know. That was a cool outfit, but
no,
yeah,
Alpha.
Alpha. Oh yeah, him. Yeah, that Alpha was awesome.
He means Adam, not Tommy.
No, I meant Tommy.
Oh,
on the about Forever Red because that was meant to be his Alpha, Alpha 7.
No, that wasn't his Alpha. That was Andros's Alpha that was operating the mega ship.
I thought it was meant to be Tommy's because Andros mentioned this whole mission and everyone there was gathered together by him. So therefore, logically, I assumed it would be Tommy's.
Well, no, I think the Alpha belonged to him because I think that's supposed to be. Because remember when they hadn't I think that's supposed to be Alpha. I believe that's the Alpha
7.
It's Alpha 7. Well, I don't know where they got an Alpha 7 though, but I would assume that's Alpha that is working the mega ship as we saw an Alpha doing as of the end of space. So I would assume it's supposed to be that Alpha or an Alpha that replaced the original Alpha for that once the original Alpha was put in a crate and shipped back to a warehouse where Adam stored him for some reason.
I believe Alpha 7 was probably off the lines at KO-35 since Alpha 6 was still on the mega ship. You know, with the Lost Galaxy Rangers.
Except that doesn't make sense because KO-35 didn't manufacture Alphas. They came from Illinois.
And also, I will ask Marcus, because he's mentioning taking away people's abilities and powers and stuff is bad. Okay, in Forever Red, why is there no battleizers?
Because it wasn't needed?
Clearly it must have been. If they're the Machine Empire, they should have used it to destroy stuff.
No, the reason there was no battleizers, and it's kind of obvious to anybody. The reason there were no battleizers is because nobody before Andros had a battleizer. So you would have had the first 4 to 5 guys standing there with nothing to do. and it would have made him look bad.
Yeah, but I'm going by the logic of we shouldn't take away people's powers and abilities, as Marcus put it, that we've seen them use in the episodes. The battleizers were really important to the Red Rangers from Andros on.
I would also say the other reason there was probably no battleizer is, number one, it would have made Cole's God Bike look bad. Number two, did Cole have his battleizer at that point? I can't remember. Because if he didn't have his battleizer at that point, yeah, the last thing you want to do is make your current Red Ranger look like complete shit, which they did anyway by giving him the goddamn God Bike, but still.
Yeah, which I'm just making the case it's the same thing as taking away Adam's ability, is taking away the Red Ranger's ultimate weapons. Because the Red Ranger's battleizers were really important. Like Leo, when he held her with that battleizer and it blows up, and then you see like his face, and that was an awesome scene. That was really important to the character.
Yep. Yeah, it would have been cool to see the battleizers, but yeah, there was multiple reasons why they didn't use them, and fair enough. But there is no reason why Adam just all of a sudden got stripped of all of his powers. Just no. And
He
you
didn't
can't
have
even say
axe because Disney had to make a new prop, or the other company would own it. Therefore, they had to change it significantly. Thus, they made it so it didn't have the cannon. Same explanation as the other stuff. That one makes sense. And he didn't use his blade blaster because in story, why would he, when his thing was he was putting his arm on the Red Ranger, and in story, as you mentioned, it was helping out the new Rangers look good because he was teaching them to take the shots and to be awesome, and therefore he was like giving all of his faith to the new people so they didn't look like ass because the old guy took care of everything.
I don't know. I didn't like the fact that because they stripped him of every single ability he had aside from an axe and fighting ability, that he had to use that overdrive vest. I'm like, come on, Adam's got more abilities than this. And I don't agree with him being the best fighter there. In terms of the actual people, yes, Johnny Bosch was probably the best fighter there. However, the character of Adam, I don't think would have been the best fighter on that team. As much as I love him, he's my favorite Ranger. No. You have fucking Tori on the team. I'm sorry, she's a fucking ninja. She is an infinitely better fighter than Adam.
Not really when he mentions it's old school but still gets the job done, where he takes out the enemies with no powers. The others had to use powers to take out minions. Therefore, he can do what they need powers to do with his bare hands. Bare hands.
I know that's what they did. I'm just saying that's not how it should have been because, again, Tori's a fucking ninja.
She's a ninja, but I would put it to you. She may be a ninja, but she's just started. She's not been a ninja for long because she was a student in Ninja Storm, so she's only really been a ninja for a few years. Adam himself is a fucking ninja. He went on a quest to get the stuff back from Ninja. And how long would he have been around to practice and hone in his skill?
True, but I put it to you, Tori's also a ninja master at this point.
Put it to you, so is Adam. He owns a dojo. They say it in the episode.
Doesn't make him a ninja master. It just makes him like a black belt martial artist. He's a good fighter. He's a good martial artist. But I'm like, you put him on a team with a ninja? I'm like, really?
Yeah, but they mention he's a master who owns a martial arts dojo.
I don't know. I would say at best they should be at the same level of skill. Because just because Tori hasn't been doing it for a while doesn't mean she's not at that skill level. Especially if she's like a ninja master teaching other people like he is, she's got to be somewhere close to his skill. And I'm just like,
she has to
come
be close.
on.
She has to be close to his skill. But as we saw in Ninja Storm, their style of ninja stuff was to rely more on the powers and less on the fighting.
True. I would say both, but true. I don't know. I'm just like...
You can't say both but true. That's contradictory.
No, I'm saying both as in... Well, they use both fighting and powers. Yeah, they focus on the powers because, CG effects, and because with Hurricane they used powers a lot, so they had to.
And also because they were concentrated on acting.
That too. But it's like... I don't know. To me, it felt like they neutered my favorite Ranger, and I'm like, fuck off.
Mm.
You fucking neutered him. No.
But that's basically we agree that Overdrive had a lot of problems, and
It
it's
did.
kind of a bit of a blemish on Power Rangers, unfortunately. Although props for the positive things. They'll be remembered. Also, props to the Sentinel Knight, good character.
One thing I did want to say about Overdrive that I will give them props for. I liked the concept of Mac being an android. I thought that was a cool twist. I didn't like the actor. I didn't like the writing. I thought it was stupid, and I thought, the character was stupid. But I was like, okay, the Red Ranger being in, kind of like the Pinocchio syndrome, like kind of basically making the data of Power Rangers. I'm like, I'm on board with this. That could be cool. And then I actually watched the series, and I was like, no, this is dumb.
Yeah. Plus, I don't remember what it was, but there was something else right around that time that was much more famous, with somebody being revealed to be an android, and that felt like a ripoff of that. I don't remember what the hell it was.
I have no idea.
Ice and Tilken, man.
No.
I remember that film. That was good.
I remember that film, too. That was good.
I did enjoy that film.
I will say, the other thing I will give it, I liked the concept for most of the characters. Like, you had like a race car driver, you had a thief, something like that. I was like, that's kind of cool. And then, again, I watched the episodes, and I was like, wow, these characters suck.
Yep.
It's like, they had a lot of good concepts there. They had, the power of Disney behind them. They had a lot of, as you said, Jim, they had a lot of potential, and it's just like, yeah, your writing team sucks ass. And your actors suck ass. I kind of liked Hartford, though. The actor for Hartford was okay. The character sucked, but the actor was actually okay. I don't know if you agree or not, Jim.
I kind of agree.
But yeah, I just wanted to give some props to Overdrive since we've been sitting here bashing it, which I guess we were supposed to because it's negative, but...
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind even, like I said, there are some positive things over Overdrive. I don't mind that, but the negatives far outweigh the positives, and unfortunately, it's just not a very good season overall. Ooh. And it's just the kind of thing that there's a reason that the Overdrive Rangers have, I think, except maybe Rhoda Montevideo once, never come to conventions or the Power Morphicon or anything like that.
I believe the actor for Andrew Hartford has been to some, but he's
fair enough.
A good character.
Fair enough.
I'm surprised the actor for Mac hasn't been there because Mac's not terrible. He was not written well, but the actor's the guy is not bad, and he's not the worst Red Ranger we've ever had in terms of character. My opinion, anyway.
Okay then.
I didn't like his character arc, but I kind of liked Mac. I thought Mac was kind of cool, aside from the blandness. But then again, as Mole pointed out, most Red Rangers are bland, so nothing new there.
Okay then.
Yep.
But yes, let's kick over to Mole to wrap things up with his negative.
My negative would be current Saban brands' marketing.
Yep.
And merchandising.
Yep.
And this goes into multiple layers. A, as I mentioned, the constant sexism as it appears within the toy line and stuff like that of, like, oh, we don't get all the female keys, and when they finally do start to talk about, we're going to release some, the next series is on, so they're not going to care. So it's like, if you're growing up as like a little boy with a sister, guess what? Your sister's not allowed to play with you. That's basically the message this show's sending home. Of girls aren't and boys aren't allowed to like the same thing. Even T-shirts. Even the T-shirts for the kids. It's just got the male Rangers and there's no T-shirts for the girls.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like, congratulations on being sexist pigs. Number two, and I am aware I said A and 2, Jim. Suck it. Is when they start to actually try and do something with the marketing and merchandising, they half-ass it. Like, for example, and I know Jim will hate me for saying this, but for example, they assembled that great power force and gave them Trivial Pursuit. Yeah, a load of the questions are wrong in it. Great job, Saban, you half-assed another thing. And it's like, then they're like, oh, those toys to game things are taking off. I know. Let's give them a TV game with really shitty SNES style graphics with like 6 toys for kids. Kids will want that. Trust me, kids will want that. They even released the comics by paper cuts that skip all the fuck over the time period, and there's loads of like inconsistencies with what time period this is actually set based on how they're speaking. And it's like everything they do with marketing and merchandising right now, since Saban's taken it back over, is to say, fuck the girls don't matter, and let's half-ass anything that could matter. And like, it's pathetic.
Yeah, pretty much. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yep. It pretty much leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth about Power Rangers now. It's like it's become almost a negative thing of like, I don't know, even people I know that I speak to about Power Rangers and stuff, or I used to speak about the Power Rangers to them now. Whenever anyone asks, "Oh, do you watch Power Rangers?" I'm like, no, because I don't want to be associated with that much sexism and shitness. Basically, it's like, no, fuck off.
Hmm. Yep, I completely agree. And I don't know if those decisions come from Saban himself or someone in his organization, but if it doesn't come from himself, whoever's making those decisions needs to be fucking fired.
Yeah,
'Cause-
that's why I said Saban Brands, but
yeah,
I'm not going to blame the exact dude just because his name's
no,
on it. But yeah, it's either due to him, or it's due to Toei, or it's due to Bandai Namco, or Bandai themselves, or it's due to someone. But across the board, people keep fucking up, and it's like, no.
right. I doubt it's Toei because if you see the Sentai toys and Sentai marketing, it's marketed across the board for boys and girls. So I doubt
It's
Toei
like
would be the one making that decision. It's probably Saban Brands.
it's like when I was growing up as a kid, one of the things they sold with MMPR, which I know Marcus wasn't really a kid when Power Rangers came out, but I was a kid when MMPR came out, and I liked it and stuff like that. Is they had dolls for the girls of Kimberly and Trini.
I remember those.
And they were like Barbies that you could change the heads on. And it's like, oh my god! And they had costumes of every Ranger, and they did everything so well that girls and boys could both feel like. And at a certain point, while Power Rangers won, I had a stepsister, and we used to watch Power Rangers together,
Nice.
and she loved it. And it's like I said, like with my little niece, she loved Mystic Force. She loved Mystic Force under Disney. I personally don't like it, but she loved it. She loved the Pink Ranger. She's like, oh my god, it's like Harry Potter with Power Rangers. She was a little kid and she loves it. It's cool. Therefore, I could support it when she was watching and stuff. And she liked all the series. And she's like, oh my god, I like this Pink Ranger. Oh my god, I like this one. It comes to now, and it's like, yes, fuck off. We don't care about you anymore. And it's like, that's just sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's my negative.
Yeah, it's almost like Saban or his company or both have forgotten how to market product since they originally had Power Rangers. And it's like I will say, under Disney, that is the one huge thing that they did was they marketed product well. But then again, it's Disney; they always market product well.
Yeah, it's like, for example, I'm not a big fan of that new Star Wars Rebels.
Mhm.
Not a big fan of it. However, the male characters in it, pretty cool. The female characters in it, pretty cool. They're treated as equals. Even Disney Infinity, you can buy all the female characters and all the male characters. Cool. They even bring Ahsoka back from the Clone Wars, and she's coming in season 2, and they've advertised that. So they even bring in another female character to expand on her story. They're treating it as something everyone can like, and it's like, okay, while it may be a little bit more for boys than it is for girls, and boys will have more toys for it, there's still enough there for girls that they can enjoy it with them. And that's what Power Rangers should be. Power Rangers should be, as it always was. It was about, like Jim mentioned as one of his positives, the messages it portrays. And its messages used to be come together as a whole, everyone of different races, different sexes and stuff like that, all work together for the greater good. Now it's like, fuck off, everyone do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know what Jim thinks about that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can understand how that's that is a problem, and I agree that they do heavily more favor the boys to the point that even in the promotional materials they put out, stating the target audience is boys. I believe 4 to 8. I think is the target audience, something like that. But yeah, they should certainly have it open to girls as well. Have that that equal footing in the merchandise, so that the girls can feel like they're a part of it as well. That is something that they need to work on a little bit.
Yeah, it's like you could target the boys. That's fair enough. Your demographic is boys. That doesn't mean you should alienate the girls. Come on, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. It's like one of the examples with that, which goes into the show itself, is as much as I liked Megaforce, and I really did, Samurai and Megaforce, what was it, like Emily and Mia, and the next one was Emma and Gia? It's like, really? Like, the girls don't even matter enough to even have names that aren't the same as last season?
Yeah. That was kind of lazy naming convention. I will agree with that.
But yeah, back to our host.
I also don't like the fact that under Saban, especially with the new wave Saban, since he's taken back over, it's become formulaic. Whereas under Disney and under Old Guard Saban, it wasn't heavily formulaic. Like once Saban obviously got out of MMPR and started doing the other seasons and stuff, like I would say after Zeo, maybe Turbo, every season felt unique with the different teams and the different characters and stuff like that. And especially, in through Disney, every season felt unique. Interconnected, mind you. Obviously, they're in the same universe and it's, year to year. But they still felt unique. Whereas under Saban now, everything just feels very formulaic. And I think that's one of the reasons I actually kind of like Dino Charge is because while some of that formula is still there, it feels like they're trying to go back to that uniqueness.
See, I will admit, with the under Saban, I like Megaforce and Super Megaforce as seasons. So far, I don't like Dino Charge because every character in there is as bland as Mac.
Fair enough.
Except for two characters who aren't bland. One of, what the hell's her name? Dr. Whatever the fuck did she call it? They called her
Morgan.
Yeah, that's it. Dr. Morgan. She's cool.
Miss Morgan.
Okay, Miss Morgan. She's cool. The other one that's not bland is the person that looks like a fucking female gremlin had sex with E.T. and out came this. The one, the Keeper at the Energems. I forget his name. It was so original and creative. Oh yeah, that's right, Keeper. And he's not bland. He's just really shit. So you got one great character, one really shit character, and then all bland crap. And it's like,
Fair enough.
It's like, for example, in Megaforce and Super Megaforce, the relationship between the Black Ranger and Green Ranger and the Yellow Ranger was really well done. I liked seeing those two, like, will they, won't they, and, oh my god, come on, get together and stuff. That was really well done. And they actually did the Yellow Ranger in that season pretty well. She was actually a great female character. And, yeah, they represented her, they represented her the way they did, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, the characters in Megaforce are good. I'll agree with that.
But take us out then.
So yeah, that was franchised Power Rangers. Hopefully, our discussions were enjoyable to those listening, and to those listening, let us know in the comments below or on the website, xpound.proforce.com. What you thought of Power Rangers. What did you like? What didn't you like? What was your favorite aspect? It'd be interesting to hear differing opinions on this, and kind of see what people look at when they look at franchises like this. So, for any of the upcoming franchises that we do, and I haven't decided on the next one yet, this will probably be a monthly show like a lot of our newer shows. So, I haven't decided what we're doing yet, but for all of them, we'll leave it open and, have you guys tell us what you think of the franchises and what you like or didn't like about it. It could be interesting, and it could open up a good discussion. So, thank you, Jim and Mole, for joining me for this inaugural franchise.
You're welcome.
And a pleasure.
And I was your host, Marcus Shadow. Join me again next month for Franchised.